Sorry, we're still having more technical difficulties. Would you? Now we're ready. Sorry. Okay. I want to welcome everyone to the special meeting of Commissioners Court. We're running a little bit behind, but it's a good thing. Gives an opportunity to look more at the maps. We do have a quorum available, so we will call this meeting to order at 10:13. And with that, are there any citizens' comments at this point? Okay, well, hearing none, we'll move to item 1, which is the public hearing at 10 a.m. And this is regarding the proposed redistricting maps of Henderson County political boundaries. And before we move into the public hearing, again, we have everyone in this room, except for 2, has been a part of this through the entire process. And again, from my point of view, it's phenomenal of where we've gotten in this short period of time. We are in so much better shape than the majority of the other counties due to some reason or another, because some of it we are good, but I don't know that we're that good with how this has come together, and I owe it to everyone's willingness to come together, the party chairs, their involvement, elections, all the court. And when you speak to getting even the maps produced, Christy Turner at the appraisal district, Josh Brock here at the county with the shape files, getting them in a format where we can have some interactive work to it. But I want to thank everyone for that. So would anybody else want to say anything before we open up into public hearing? If not, we need a motion to move into public hearing.
I'll make a motion to move into public hearing at 10:14.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Spivey to move into public hearing at 9:14. All those in favor of the motion? Item passes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak during this time concerning the maps that have been placed upon the wall? This is what has been put forward as proposals. The following item, the item number 2 on the agenda, is where we consider and take action, whereas if there are any changes that wish to be made, will be addressed at that point. But here in the public hearing, and does anyone wish to speak to what is considered to be Proposal 1 at this time? If you do, please come forward and give your name, your address, and you've got 3 minutes. Does anyone wish to speak? Make one more call. Anyone wish it? Yes, sir. Mr. Fladmark? If you want to.
Michael Fladmark, 600 Winding Shore Drive, Toole, Texas, also the Democratic Party County Chair for Henderson County. 2 things I'd like to make comment on. The first is that I appreciate the commissioners and the judge and the election office administrator and the city staff for their due diligence, their openness, their communication in helping make the proposed redistricting maps available and the work that went in to make them happen as far as becoming more reasonable than they were before. The second thing I'd like to say is that I'm in support of the changes and would like to just have you all know that at this point. So I'll leave it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, hearing none, may we have a motion to close public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Spivey, second by Commissioner McCam to close public hearing at 10:17. All those in favor? Item passes. Item number 2 is consider and take action on proposed redistricting maps of Henderson County political boundaries. And it is at this point I would like to put forth some information. And please, there's a small group here, free exchange and discussion if we want to have this much as we've had through the entire process. I want to take more of an in-depth look on the maps. For some, we've already been through this a time or two. But for those that do not know, the county is required through the 1965 Voting Rights Act to redistrict to ensure to the greatest degree possible that everyone's vote is counted equally. And given that each precinct, commissioner's precinct, has to be as close as they can within a total of a 10% deviation from one another, from the largest to the smallest, we have to be as close to equal as possible. And in the process of evaluating the census information, it was determined that we were statutorily required to redistrict. The population growth in Precinct 2, it had the largest number of residents. Precinct 1 had the smallest number. And that deviation point was 11.4, 11.6, which calls for the statutory requirement of redistricting. We're very fortunate in that we were able to address this problem in areas with population density. And, we are a rural county. It has been recently distributed. You know that anywhere from about 2/3 of our population in this county lives within the House District 4 area, which it makes up about, 1/3 to 1/4 of the entire population or the entire landmass of Henderson County. So when you have a concentration of individuals like that and you have requirements that you have to address, such as limitations on the voter tabulation districts, which we have displayed for District 4 now, each one of these areas is limited to 5,000 population. When you come into the Athens area, you can see when I click on this area here is District 4A, and there are 2,397 residents within that voting district. Our ideal value, if every district was the same, we would have 3,043 people in each district. But of course, you cannot have it that way due to geographical issues such as how House District 4 and 8 were laid out. So we had to do the best we could with the creation of new voting districts. So backing up, I will turn these back on. Given that the voter tabulation districts are the foundation of everything that we build off of to get to what we are statutorily required to meet, what we have shown as a proposal is this rendition of the redistricting of the commissioners' maps. And I go through all of this to point out the areas of which we made the changes. Here inside the loop, we have a higher population density. And that is the wrong one. 1 and 1.
That's the former map.
That is the former map. I'm doing real good, aren't I? Do this again. Please bear with me. To continue discussion while I try to do two things at once, inside the loop, we ended up combining portions that were in Precinct 2 and in Precinct 1 concerning to create a new voter tabulation district, and that was done so that they could be retained in District 4, House District 4. Now, also there's another factor in that, is that since both of those were in District 4 and all in proximity, turn these off, turn this one on. This one still has it. As you can see on the maps on the wall, we have combined those districts. This is an improper rendition from our area. I apologize. This area right in here was added from Precinct 2 into Precinct 1. It was also, if you want to look at that one back there, you see, there we go, this red area right here. Now I've got the right one. This is now a new tabulation district that is all in JP1. The previous area here south of 31 was originally in the Justice of the Peace Court 5. And given that this region here is now a part of District 4, whereas this region here is a part of District 5, District 8, House District, we had to split this area off of this voting box here and create over here so we can meet those requirements. And the best location to move that into was then to the JP1 location. So there's a lot of moving parts when we're talking about this. You have commissioners' districts, you have voter tabulation districts, you have state house districts, and you have JP districts. Commissioners' courts boundaries are driven solely by population. That is not the same requirement upon JP precincts. Those follow voter tabulation districts, whereas commissioners' precincts are designed on population-wise, and you design your voter tabulation districts to fit those requirements of the commissioner precincts, and then since we have 5 JPs and most rural counties have 4 that follow commissioners precincts, we have to base our JP district moving based upon voter tabulation districts. Now, long story to get to the change here in Athens that was able to bring more in alignment Commissioner 1 and 2 with the advertent shift of some population from JP5 to JP1. And given that it's all within the city of Athens, a little better, closer variant. Now, the other areas of change with the Commissioner's Court line was here along 317. Right along in this area here, as you see me depicting upon the map, the original boundary dropped down and followed a creek that was just south of 317 moving to the east. There was a small discrepancy in population between 3 and 4, and since we're doing this now with looking at the future, we chose to balance that area as well, which moves that boundary between 3 and 4 up to 317. I believe it was an actual transfer of about 5 miles of roadway from 3 to 4. There was, memories right, about 400 individuals, 500?
I think about 750
About
overall.
750.
About 750 to help bring it into balance. Of course, when you move that, you also do work on your voter tabulation districts, which move those up to that line, which in turn moves the JP precinct lines up to that point. So in meeting the requirements for redistricting the commissioners' precincts, that's what drove our changes that are presented here. Population requirements to VTD districts, one driver. Us having 5 JP districts and following the VTD changes is what calls for slight changes in those areas. And then the actual changes to the VTD districts is brought by legislative action of the state creating their maps and the population limitations of 5,000 per voter tabulation district. So I know that I have hit on a little bit of everything as to explaining some of our reasoning. We do know, to be more specific, in the Gun Barrel City area, you will see this green area here. That is actually a new voter tabulation district. Gun Barrel South, this area, which was Gun Barrel North and Gun Barrel South, was previously able to meet all the criteria. But due to the population growth, we had more than basically 10,000 people in that region and had to create another district, which this new district has 1440 in it. The new Gun Barrel North has 4,557, and Gun Barrel South has 3,747. And many could ask why this jagged region coming across here is that this represents the city limits for the city of Gun Barrel. And why did we follow the city limits of Gun Barrel? Because individuals that would be voting in Gun Barrel City issue need to be within that same voter tabulation district, because when you have city voters working on an issue, it's a part of the elections administration. And Paula can tell you through all of the work that they are having to do now by measuring and moving. So if someone goes to the polling place, they are ensured they get the correct ballot for where they live. That's the purpose of following these other political subdivision lines, no different than we did with the state house district moves. Same exact philosophy. It's just in this instance, it looks a little more irregular. We created 4B, a new 4B, rearranging around the city of Athens, retaining it in its previous justice district. And as you move over here to the Chandler area, the population there had exceeded the 5,000 mark for the Chandler box. So we had to create a Chandler South box. Again, the area originally was above 5,000, so we split it. We created or left 3C north of 31, which is 2,782, and created 3CS, Chandler South, and there's 2,508 within that one. We took, since we were making changes in the region, we had not only elections administration issues, but we also have, in discussion with our party chairs, we've come to a time, and it's been a number of years now, where it's harder and harder to find individuals, one, to work elections, and it is difficult for the parties to find individuals to act as precinct chairs. Because what we call the VTD, the parties call precincts. These are the areas of responsibility that the parties have in having individuals to have authority in that way to organize, to communicate, to get the messages out. And these same individuals are many of the same ones that are our poll workers. So we were, with the changes, able to strengthen. Following demographic changes, we were able to strengthen areas. I'll point to Moore Station. You remember me saying earlier that due to the population growth and the creek that ran through here as a line, we were actually able, by moving up to 317, to strengthen the demographic makeup that has historically been there in this process, making it a more viable district or / precinct. You move down into what was Coffee City and Berryville region. We had 2 voter tabulation districts there that we combined. The court knows this well. The party chairs brought it to us that because of the issue of finding individuals to serve those positions, and there is no limitation by the combining of these population-wise, we brought them together, 2 different voter tabulation districts that each would have had about, 1,800 apiece. We brought those together and created one district or one precinct of 3,710 individuals. It's a more efficient way of conducting elections. And again, it also helps our elections office handling along with the precincts. Really, that within the city of Athens, the growth in the Gun Barrel, Chandler areas, that's what drove the majority of the changes here, along with creating the foundation for more efficient and better elections over the next 10 years. I'll be happy to click on anything that anyone would like to see or answer any questions. As I said, you have what we have on the screen are the voter tabulation districts and the correct ones. Sorry for the confusion there. What you have represents here are the commissioner precincts. And this is the JP precincts. And like I said, the addition here was adding these into JP1 from JP5. We had to push up a little bit north into Payne Springs. The boxes there had grown, and of course, with the population boom around on the west side of the lake, we had to push Trinidad up through, not taking in the city of Toole, so that we could, again, develop the proper voter tabulation districts. Are there any questions or comments? Like I said, we'd be much more free-flowing during this portion of it, so Judge?
Back on the JP precincts.
Yes, sir?
I know there was some added in my precinct. Does that follow 2494 or?
No, it does up to a certain point, but this is the original line, this here. We did not move any, when we created 4B, this portion of the line is the historical line between the previous voting box and what we created over here. The main area of push out was in through here that we had to bring this area, which has very little population, into what is 4B, that is sitting at 2,750. So this one is built off, that one's going to be 76. This one, combining this area here together, let me bring that back up. Maybe that would be this area here took it to 1624. Population is what pushed that. This has not changed this area here, because much of this was in 1 CR originally, and we put it in from 1 CR over into 1.
So basically, it's still, that straight line down is far west side there.
Oh, right here?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the name of that road.
Is that Prairieville?
Bunny Rabbit? I believe
Oh, is that
so.
Bunny Rabbit?
Yes, sir, that's Bunny Rabbit.
Okay.
That boundary still remains.
So nothing's gained over here on the purple side.
No, sir. Any gain would be down in this region. That would be gained in the purple side when I say, because we had to do some changing here and merging, and because we had to create a new box with 4B. And we had to be able to put that together because it pushed out for the original boxes. You had, what is it, 4 West? What is it at Shady Oaks? 4W? 4W came underneath the loop way up into Athens here. And we had to push these out and down to the loop because of what the state did with their house redistricting. The loop is what they chose to use, which really calls for us to do a lot of shuffling inside and having, like I said, to create a couple of boxes. And be very, very mindful of the location of where the office holders live. We had to be very, very mindful of that.
I'm just barely in.
Yes, sir. And we did not change that line at all when we actually had to bring, well, that's incorrect. Oh, excuse me. We had to actually bring District 4. It was outside the loop, and we had to bring it inside the loop, expanding 4SE up to the loop to meet what the state had done in the house redistricting. Because those lines have to be the same for effective elections administration. Same up here in 4A. 4A was outside the loop in a number of places, and we had to pull it back. In here, in 3 and what is 3N, 3 actually was through here, I believe, right in this location,
Yep.
was all the way across, or, yeah, to here, was all into what was 3N. So we had to bring 3 down to the loop and push 3N down there as well to line up, because Loop 7 is the boundary from 19 all the way around Athens back to 31 between the 2 house districts. So we had to adjust our voter tabulation districts while remaining with the population, is all that stuff I said before, to meet what the state had done.
So basically with shifting, did my precinct gain voters or lose voters?
The only location that was added to your area is this area right down here, and I believe it was 761 is what I saw earlier. Let me turn this on. Yes, we added 761 that are in that portion there into your precinct. That was the only changes that would have added population, because as you come on the western boundary from 1861 down to 175, all of this boundary continues to be the same, all of this area, as it was previously from the 2011 redistricting. This work that was done in here was, well, south of 31 was to meet the needs of what the state had done. North of 31 was done to meet the county's need to balance the population between Precinct 1 and Precinct 2, Commissioners Precinct 1 and 2.
So with that, looks like maybe I picked up some part of Dogwood in through there?
2494,
It'll be all inside the loop.
yeah. Anything outside the loop is not involved in that change. That remains, there's the Dogwood Church there. That is still in JP5, as it has been historically. But when you come up to the loop, once you cross under the loop, then you begin. Isn't that Hendry land? Isn't that Hendry land? That's what I thought. It's very sparsely populated in that section. Whoop, excuse me. And of course, the boundary here remained the same between your precinct and precinct 3. Now, if you want to,
And we match JP4 with Commissioner 4 on the northern boundary.
yes, we matched because those voter tabulation districts, when we expanded those with the justice courts following that and meeting the commissioners' precincts, the JP4 moved up slightly, gaining that same number that we talked about, 700
Yeah, 750.
in that move. I will pull up, see if I can find it. Here is some data that will assist. I don't know, see if I can enlarge it. And we can go through that if you want a little more. There are, to start off, our population by census was 82,150, which is actually an increase of 3985. That was a 5.1% increase. When you look specifically at the justice courts, that JP5 is at 16.3, JP4 at 16.9, JP3 14.11, and historically JP2 has always been the largest at 23.8, and JP1's at 10.8. And I will give a little historical information. One of the reasons why JP1 was also considered on smaller, was never really considered very, very urgent to increase the populations because the Justice Peace Precinct 1 carries the majority of the duties at the jail facility. So it is a great balancing in some regards. This other information concerns the commissioner precincts, what they are individually. You know, we have to be within close to each other. 20,229 in 1, 20,936 in 2. Precinct 3, 20,358, and Precinct 4, 20,627. And as you can see, these other numbers are the populations of each voter tabulation district as well. Some folks will be interested to understand some of the population demographic breakout of what the county is. You know, we spoke about how 2/3 of the county lives in 1/4 of its land population. This actually breaks down the actual ethnicities that the census follows and is a part of. You'll see that as the county as a whole here, the Anglo population in actual numbers dropped 2% of it, came down 2% of the entire population, followed by the African American, which was 1.65% drop in the total population. American Indian increased by almost 19%, Asian by 60%, Hispanic 32%, Hawaiian Pacific Islander 14%, other 177%, and multi-race 229%. when you look at it overall of what the actual percentages made up in 10, we had a change of 5.6% reduction in the overall Anglo percentage. When you're comparing percentages of what the county was 10 years ago to what the percentages are today, it's a 5.6% reduction in the Anglo, a 0.33 in the African American population. American Indian increased, as you see, 0.06, Asian 0.21, Hispanic was a 2.86%. Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, unchanged, other 0.16, and multi-racial 2.64%. So we went on, I won't get off into the details, I like playing in the weeds. Each commissioner's precinct is broke down in the same fashion here. So with one little thing I did not do. I guess this is one comparison I should really speak of. Historically, precinct 1 represents 24.9% of the entire population. In 2010, it had a slight reduction of 0.25%. Oh, excuse me. I did this last night. Yeah. Precinct 3 in 2011 had 25.11%. It increased after our work here to by 0.37%, and precinct 4 actually reduced by 0.05%. So if you like getting off into the weeds and playing with, see what numbers tell you, that page is quite informative. Oh, that's pretty much what we've done. Judge, Ms. Dees, you're here. Do you have any questions?
I got a little lost in the 6th one.
In the what?
The one that has 6 something. 6 districts?
6 districts. We have 5 JP districts.
Right.
We have 4 commissioners districts, and now we have 30 voter tabulation districts. And we actually had created, maybe that's where you're at, we ended up creating 6 boxes, I believe in total is what it was. But then we were able to combine, working around to reduce by 3. So we originally had created 6 new voter tabulation districts, and then through combinations of the others, we were able to reduce by 3, giving us 30 total voter tabulation districts. You're welcome.
That's the only part I got kind of lost.
Well, and for those that, before we went to being a vote center, where you could vote anywhere in the county on election day, we had to have a polling location open in every one of those districts, which, Mr. Fladmark, how, 4 does that, or Paula, is that 4, 2 for each party at each?
Yeah, 4 and 6 in the big location.
Right, so,
4 election workers, either a primary judge or an alternate judge, 3 election workers.
so 4 to 5? So 150 people
Yeah.
is
Morning, Judge.
morning. We were having the discussion about voter tabulation districts and what it means prior to the vote centers. And we were sitting here having the discussion that would mean prior to vote centers, we'd have to have 150 with 30 voter tabulation districts would equate into 150 election workers just to cover the sites. not counting ballot board, all of those other things. And
That's equally proportioned between the two parties. Right.
right. So it is the vote center project not only helped for more effective administration, it eased and created an efficiency for the ability to gain poll workers. And that is such an integral part of what we do. And in making these decisions here, having that in mind when we are consolidating, that really makes it a primary source. And it is an expense. It is an expense, not only for the county, but as the primaries, the parties covering the expenses of the primaries. It's not just changing lines on the paper and, oh, we want this, we want that. There are so many moving parts into this. That's why I'm, like I said before, so proud of this group and how we all work together to try to meet everyone's interests. I have talked all morning. Anyone on the court?
You've done a great job.
So we have 40 voter tabulation boxes. How many polling places do we think we're going to have at this time now?
I think 18.
18 polling places?
Now, as a part of that discussion since it does tie so directly with redistricting, so no one can say that we've gotten off topic, we currently have designated 23. And once this process is complete and all the information can be uploaded into the voting system so that everyone is ensured a proper ballot for where they live, then we will be picking up the notion of reducing further from the current 23 vote centers down to the 18 numbers, what you're seeing from the elections side of it, elections administration side of it, the next step to making it even better.
Are we still thinking about doing, this is tied in with the voting also, are we still thinking about doing with that reduction, is doing the early voting side at LaRue?
In the proposal that we've asked the elections administration to bring forward, I would point to her. Do we think it's viable?
I would think for the governor and the presidential, yes. For constitutional, maybe not.
Okay.
I think for big local races in there,
And given the fact, again, that we are vote centers, it gives us that flexibility. Now, I do remember before we were vote centers, we had some flexibility with not opening all of the sites. But this makes it even more efficient, that we still have that same flexibility, but having all of this options to us makes us even better. Yes, sir.
Judge, so this initiative would be put in place before the primary?
yes, I'm trying to.
That's
On the printer, I worked on it yesterday. I left it on the copy machine when I printed it because it was on legal paper, but yes.
right.
We're going to try to meet, I think by next week, I hope to have a proposal for.
Oh, okay,
court.
good.
So, are we having court week of Thanksgiving?
I think we are.
Which, my goal.
For you, we'll have a court.
It's talking to these people and make sure we're good on the location, because I can't just say we're going to use that location. I need to communicate with the.
Agreed.
With the locations before I say this is what it is.
Okay,
I just want to have a good set.
okay.
I've been busy.
Pardon?
I've been busy.
Yes, you have. Any other comments? Mr. Hunt, you have another job as well, besides being Republican chair, and we're tied up. Would you have anything you would like to?
Well, have y'all already voted to?
No,
Okay.
we have not.
Well, I do want to say, I appreciate the court allowing both myself and Michael to be involved in this process. I think it's important. And as you mentioned, we learned stuff from the process, and I think y'all learned stuff from us too. So I think it worked very well. And I don't know that it works like that in every county. I think this is exceptional.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second it.
Judge, you good with them?
I'm good.
All right. Anyone else?
Not that it matters.
I'd like to say public thank you to Judge Wade McKinney for the time he spent on this project. His forethought in allowing the groups to come together and work on this together. I think being this is his third redistricting helped tremendously. This was all everybody else on the court's first, so I think it would have been a lot bigger problem if we'd had to start afresh. But I think with his knowledge of what was going on, that he was able to guide us in what needed to happen and let us make those decisions that we thought were right for the constituents in Henderson County. And I think he did a tremendous job. I think his ability to explain why we made the changes we made helps the public see the changes that were being made, and it sounds a lot easier than it really was. He spent a lot of hours on this with them splitting Henderson County into this new congressional Texas House district. It made a little bit more of a problem. So I just wanted to say thank you for the work that, and it's been a tremendous amount of hours when you call up here and need to ask him a question and talk to him. And every time nearly for the last month he's been on redistricting. So thank you for the work you put in and the knowledge you brought to the table.
Thank you. And,
I'll second that.
well,
11 o'clock emails, working on it till midnight.
Well, I even got a broke desk now in the office over here. But we learned a lot over the years, and y'all have heard about the disappearing JP6 that time. Not when we intended to make it disappear, but the prior time. We learned a lot of lessons through then, and a lot of this process, I learned a great deal in this one. Each time, there's no handbook given to any one of us when we take either a position on the court or at the parties or going on in any office. They don't give you an instruction manual. They say, this is what you can't do. Now, get out of here. So honestly, y'all, communication and working together is what makes county work. It makes life work, but especially with the county, because none of us have any authority individually, but we do collectively. So thank y'all very much for being so willing to work and to trust what I was saying. That means a lot. So thank y'all very much, all of you.
I'd also like to thank Ms. Ludke for stepping in at a difficult time and being a great additive to this.
Welcome to the EA office.
And thank y'all, I mean, there's stuff that I didn't catch that you did, like the subdivisions and the city limits, and I'm just seeing that this week when I'm changing stuff, but that's gonna help me a lot.
Yeah, well,
Keeping those splits simple is a lot easier than making them complicated.
that really is. It's about, that keep it simple, and there's another part of that, but that since I seem to fit in the numerous categories, and that's what I try to do, is to keep it as simple as we can, because simple is always better. So if there's not any further comments, we've got a couple of actions that we do need to take on the adoption here. And in your backup, we have an order that is an order adopting redistricting plans for the Commissioners Court precincts, the Justice of the Peace Constable precincts, and for the election precinct boundaries. It is here, it will be for the entire court to sign. This is our last step to take. Once we have done this and sent this information along with all of our notices that we've had for public hearing, all of our agendas, we will package that, send it to Mr. McGee with the law firm, and they will generate for us our backup that proves up everything that we have done for future review, be it by history or even if it's in legal consideration. Because this is the first year since 1970 is when it first became applicable to Texas. This is the first year since 1970 that political districts in Texas have not had to receive pre-clearance from the U.S. Justice Department. So the intent here is to still continue to develop the case file for everything that we have done, so as if there is ever a challenge to, that is already prepared and done in a form as to which the U.S. Justice Department would consider acceptable. So that's it. We have to approve this order today because the deadline is tomorrow. And then we'll be through this. So
Judge, I make a motion that we approve the order adopting redistricting plan for Commissioners Court precincts, Justice of the Peace and Constable precincts, and election precinct boundaries.
Second.
motion made by Commissioner McCam, second by Commissioner Tooley, to approve the order adopting redistricting plan for the Commissioners Court precincts, the Justice of the Peace Constable precincts, and the election precinct boundaries. All those in favor of the motion? Item passes. Thank you all very much. And we have an additional item on this agenda. That is item 3, which is consider and take action on canvass of the votes for the November 2nd, 2021 constitutional amendments. Ms. Lucky.
All righty. We had an election during the middle of all this. So we had 27 precincts. We had 45 ballot styles. And the reason why we had so many ballot styles, we hosted elections for 6 different entities. We have 56,413 registered voters, of which 5,055 turned out to vote. All the state propositions in our county passed, and I believe statewide they did too. So that's all I have.
Questions for Ms. Lucky? Entertain a motion on the canvas.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Tooley, second by Commissioner Spivey, to approve the canvass of the votes for the November 2nd, 2021 constitutional amendments. All those in favor? Item passes. Ms. Lucky, thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have the hard copies to the order with me, so we will need all the commissioners, if you would, come by the office to sign both items that we just approved. So I was unprepared this morning to bring that with me. So if you would, please come by afterward. Yes, we need, if you've got the order for the canvas, we'll go ahead and sign that now. But if you would, Angie's going to need a copy of it. She's got them over there. I just didn't bring a hard copy with me. That's okay.
I have it here.
All right. Well, item 4 is consider and take action to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, and since there is an opportunity for discussion, I will allow for an audience member. Yes, sir.
Judge, I was just wanting to know when the maps will be available for public, and when they'll be posted on your county website.
We will try to get them up probably next week. Like I said, we do have some additional copies in my office of what's hanging on the wall that actually has the voter tabulation districts and the JP precincts. We did make extras before. I just didn't haul them in, not expecting the what size the audience would be. So we hung the samples up and come by the office and we'll get you some. Okay? Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? Item passes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Now you can breathe.